And for creatives, when you're copywriting, when we're writing for someone else, we want to capture their language. We
Hmm.
don't want to capture the language of all the 500 blogs on the same topic. We want to
Yes.
capture their language and their way of thinking. And having meetings, I'm often on a call with a client, just asking questions and probing and being curious. And then we
Hmm.
take that and AI transcribes it for us. And
Hmm.
then AI, we can put that into AI and we can say, what language is being used here? And of
Right.
course, we have humans that also go over it, but AI can help us extract the language that our clients are using
Hmm.
so that we can, when we write, we sound like our clients. Because if you just use ChatGPT, you sound like everyone else. But if you're
Yeah.
using your language, but AI is helping you with that by transcribing, by creating lists of terms that you should use in a blog post
Hmm.
you're writing for a client, then you're doing something extra, right? You're not just throwing something
Yeah.
into ChatGPT and getting something out. Again, garbage in,
Yeah.
garbage out. You
Hmm.
are using good resource material and you will get a better result doing that. So the job of copywriter, as you say, it might change, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go away because you still need that human oversight.
Absolutely. I'll say from a strategist standpoint, you absolutely, in some cases, at least from the strategist standpoint, I'm not having a conversation with with my clients about using their voice unless we're talking about their value proposition, where they're talking strictly about their business. A lot of times the conversation that I have to remind them of is it's not about you, it's about your audience. So we're not using your language, we're not using my language, we're using the audience's language. Because the way that I explain it to people is branding is basically gathering all of the information that you learn about the audience, compiling everything between the audience and yourself, and then marketing is repeating it back to them and asking them if you got it right.
Yeah.
So you'll know that you got it right when you start getting a proper response. If you're listening and you realize, well, when I explain it this way, this is how my understanding of it. When I explain it this way, this is their understanding of it. We had a conversation where I was telling you, I said I had to simplify my content because somebody was saying, it's like, yeah, I mean, you're talking at a different level than some of the levels that people read at, or they may have an understanding of a comprehension level. Per your advice, I actually put it into to Claude and I asked, and it said, yeah, you're talking at like a college and university level, as opposed to I want to say what is the average sixth, seventh grade level?
Yeah, depending on what you're doing, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if you look at what level the newspapers are, that
Hmm.
can help you. It's like I
Yeah.
want my people to be able to read this newspaper, and then finding out what level that is, that's what the grade you should write at. Right? But you're right.
Yeah.
Sean, your writing is so much more complex than most people want to deal with, right?
Yeah, I had to learn that. And it as many times as I had people explain it to me, for me in the back of my mind, I was like, it feels like a slight if I try to, bring it, slow it down, but so much because it feels condescending, like I'm talking down to them. But what I had to remind myself is there are the people when I think about reading, when I read something, I'm reading it in my voice in my head. So that's the part that I always had to remind myself to say, if I was reading it to them, then that might be something different. But
Yeah.
when they're reading it in their head, it has to make sense to them because if it's not something that they would naturally say, then that's where the disconnect is going to come in and they can't connect with it. And that's why I said, as a strategist, I have to constantly remind people that it's not about you. It's about actually making sure that you're using their language to make sure that they understand it and guilty. It's a lesson that I not only teach other people, but I constantly have to remind myself. And so much so that when we're talking about AI, I've had to create some custom AI agents to be able to vet it to make sure that I'm not doing that, because I will always kind of revert back to, you know what, it's this is my understanding of it, and I have to kind of go in and say, you know what, am I still talking from my level of understanding, or am I making sure that it's something that someone else can understand? Because everybody's starting point is different.
Yeah, and side note, it's not about being condescending. It's never
Mm,
about being condescending. So you have a level of expertise that your reader does not have. So that's one. Secondly, your reader is busy. They're not just
Yeah.
reading what you're writing, they're looking
Yeah.
after their kids or their parents, they have a job, they're hungry, they didn't go to the gym, they haven't had enough coffee, they like, and on and on and on, right? So you are writing to someone who doesn't have your level of expertise, is really busy. They're smart. They're just as intelligent as you are, but they're really, really busy and they need to be able to consume the information as quickly as possible and act on it easily so they can move on with their day. And if you make that difficult for them, they won't finish reading it. It's funny, somebody said to me, you write in very simple terms. Aren't Didn't you get a degree in linguistics? I said, yes, and that's why I write in simple terms. Because I was taught, you don't it's not about being pompous. It's about being clear and understandable and empathic with where your reader sits at the moment they're interacting with your words. And that's not condensation. That's respect and empathy, right? So,
Well, I love that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I said she is a nurturer. This is why I said that she empowers, because that is exactly what it is that I'm talking about. A lot of my experience came from the corporate side, and it's very transactional there. They use acronyms, they use all of these things to make themselves feel and sound smarter, and to make sure that other people don't pick up on the things that they know, because the mindset is when someone else knows it, they copy it, they try to take it, they try to improve upon it, and then you can end up being on the wrong end of that. So I know where my training came from and why it is a blessing and a curse. And it is retraining myself to be more like Melanie Ann and actually explain it in a way that makes more sense. So there is a definite difference between the corporate side and then the more public side, and making sure that people understand it in a way that they can actually do something with it, as opposed to the only people that truly understand are the people in the room that are deciding things for other people.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.